Hey everybody, welcome back to Movies You Missed, Episode 8 coming at you. I'm John.
And I am Vee.
We are bringing you a bit of a different episode today. This is going to be our In Memoriam episode, as we lost a very fantastic actor over the last week and a half, Ray Liotta, and I'm sure all of you are familiar with the man. We're going to bring you two different films, one that is very well known, one that is not so very well known, and I look forward to discussing both of these films because one of them I really love to death and the other I actually enjoy as well. So I'm looking forward to getting into this one. How about you, V?
I am. I love the fact that we're doing this. It is something that I hope we don't have to do very often. It's
Agreed.
always rough when the world loses someone who's an artist who you respect, who's well known as being a very good person. But I am appreciative that we have the opportunity to talk about him and also introduce people to movies of his that aren't Goodfellas.
Exactly, yes. That was one thing that I did find interesting is on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, everybody used Goodfellas for a remembrance of Ray Liotta. And let's not discount Goodfellas in any way, shape, or form. It is a masterpiece film. Scorsese killed it. Everybody in Goodfellas killed it, including Mr. Ray Liotta. But he has a catalog of films that some people likely have never heard of. So I'm excited to get into mine because I know a lot of people have not heard of mine.
Absolutely. And I'm excited to get into mine because I know a lot of people need reminding of how awesome that movie is and the fact that he's
100%.
in it.
Yes, exactly. And that was my second time watching it. My wife is actually a very big fan of your pick this week. I remember watching it the first time with her, and I was very touched by it. And watching it again last night, I didn't cry, but there was definitely a moment where I got a lump in my throat for sure.
Oh, I totally cried. I totally cried in this movie.
I know, you texted me, you're like, I cried at this one, and I'm like, I didn't, but I can understand why people would, for sure.
It was a very similar feeling to the first time I watched Black Panther after Chadwick died. It was very emotional the first time I watched it after Chadwick died because he's just there and there's poignant scenes and you're just reminded of what a great like I said, what a great artist these people were. And so I'm really excited to talk about both of these films today.
Absolutely, yeah. I think we're ready to dive into it. How about you?
Agreed.
All right, I believe you start us off with your pick this week.
I do, and we actually are going to follow a chronological order, which is interesting.
Yeah.
This week, for Ray, I picked Field of Dreams. It's a movie from 1989. It is, I think, a pretty well-known movie, but a lot of people mainly just associate Kevin Costner with this movie.
Absolutely, and that's all I've ever associated with this movie, even after having seen it one time. Anytime anybody brings up, like, oh yeah, Kevin Costner, I'm like, yeah, but there's a bunch of other people in that movie.
There is, and I'm absolutely going to talk about them.
Awesome.
And for anyone who needs reminding or who has not seen this film yet, Field of Dreams is about a man who is in Iowa and owns a corn farm and starts hearing voices in his fields. And he gets these visions and these voices to tell him to build a baseball field in the middle of his crops. And of course, to the chagrin of all of the townspeople who think he is off his rocker. And from there, the ghost of Shoeless Joe Jackson shows up.
Yes.
The reason why it's Shoeless Joe is because this man, Ray Kinsella, played by Kevin Costner, had a very tumultuous relationship with his father. And Shoeless Joe was his father's favorite baseball player. His father was obsessed with baseball and had tried to get Ray to play. So this movie is a little bit fantastical. And it also has some really beautiful subplots about family, about the relationships that you have with them, father-son relationships. This is also, I think, a great Father's Day movie, to be honest with you.
Oh, definitely.
And that is coming up, so timely in some ways. And this movie is just so beautiful. It's subtle and gorgeous. It is nostalgic. There's a ton of Americana in it, which I think is true of any baseball movie I ever watch.
Absolutely.
More so than any other sports movie, baseball specifically always has that really Americana feel to it. And
yeah, that's a good point. I would agree with you on that.
Okay, great. And I'm not a big fan of baseball, to be honest with
neither
you.
am I.
My parents dig it. I love taking them to games because I do enjoy that experience. And my family's from Northern California, and the park that the San Francisco Giants play in is a gorgeous park. It's a very good experience. But in general, I don't watch baseball games. I don't follow baseball. I do enjoy baseball movies. I find them much more interesting than the game itself, actually.
That's funny.
And so
I really enjoy going to games over watching it on TV.
oh yeah, I'll never watch a game on TV, but going to games is actually kind of fun, and I love the ballpark food and having a beer and hanging out with your friends or your family, and that is a very good experience. I agree. I hadn't seen this movie in a few years, but it is a beautifully made movie. It absolutely holds up, and the subtlety of it is fantastic. And the best part about watching this movie recently is that it was a perfect escape from the current times.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Shit's been going down in America for years now. A lot of people are getting really disenchanted, and this reminder of how beautiful it could be and just how simple it can be, life is. And it was just such a great escape from the current reality versus a lot of movies I've seen recently. It did a great job at that.
I would agree with you on that, definitely. It is a feel-good movie. Throughout the entire movie, it's very uplifting. Like, there's always something that works out, and I just like the fact that his wife is so on board with everything.
She's so fucking cool.
Yeah,
I love
she's
her.
great. Yeah, and that's all a man wants in his life, is a woman that will support him through just about anything, regardless of how, like you said earlier, fantastical it might be. He's got a cornfield outside of a farm in Iowa, and the opening monologue is like, we bought a farm in Iowa, and I'm gonna be a farmer at 36. I got a family, and this, that, and the other. And then he starts hearing the voice, and then his wife is like, well, if that's what you need to do, then do it, and that's kind of like in Private Parts when Howard Stern's wife is like, if you need to quit this horrible radio station to actually find your feet, I guess is what the saying is, then she supports him. And just kind of like how my wife is, she has supported me in everything that I have brought to the table. And so it's very reminiscent of the fact that a lot of men need is a good woman in their life. And I really like that part about it because I feel I have a pretty great woman in my life.
You do. She's amazing. Can confirm. She's awesome.
Indeed.
With that character played by Amy Madigan, who I think I really like her. She's a really cool actress. She always has this kind of down-to-earth vibe where she's like confident and just very cool. She most recently was in Grey's Anatomy as a therapist, and she's just a guest star for a couple episodes, but she was definitely made her mark and very memorable in it. She was also in Uncle Buck and Gone Baby Gone, which is an incredible movie.
I actually have not seen Gone Baby Gone.
I'm going to add it to the list. It's good.
I heard that one is a very good movie. That's Ben Affleck directed, right?
Yeah, and Ed Harris, who is her husband, and so is Morgan Freeman and a bunch of other very famous people who are awesome in it. Really, really good cast, very beautifully done. I really think Ben Affleck is kind of the new Clint Eastwood in terms of directorial style. Like the way he did Gone Baby Gone, The Town, Argo, definitely reminds me of a lot of recent Clint Eastwood work like Mystic River and things like that. So I enjoy both of them as directors, and you would enjoy those movies because they're dark.
Oh yeah, I do love me some Ben Affleck. I have not had a whole lot of issues with Ben Affleck as a writer, director, actor, and like you said, The Town is definitely a good movie.
And the thing I liked about her character, and as you said, she was really supportive. She was really supportive without being a doormat.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I like that.
There is absolutely a difference with any character or with any woman. There's being supportive, and then there's being a doormat, and they were absolutely partners. They had great chemistry in this movie. I love this casting.
Very much so.
She was a badass. Like, she stood up when in the PTA meeting when they're talking about banning books, and she's like, you gonna listen to this Ava Braun, or are you gonna stand up for freedom?
That was,
was
so good.
That was so great.
So good. And she's running out there just jazzed. She's like, did you see that? Oh, that was amazing. Yeah, that was a great scene.
Yes. And
yeah, because again, like you said, it shows her confidence, and it shows the fact that she's not one of those pushover wives that, is like, oh, whatever you need, honey. No. There was conversation before he actually truly decided to start breaking down the corn and put this baseball field in there. And she was all about it. But not like, I just love that she was so energized about, like you said, the Ava Braun thing, and she really is all about this PTA thing, and her daughter and all these other kids learning certain things.
And their daughter was so cute.
Oh, little Gabby Hoffman.
Oh, Gabby Hoffman. She was great. She was so precocious and so cute, and I loved all her lines, and she did them so well.
She was so funny. Like when I turned to my wife and I said, "Man, this kid's good." And I'm like, and she goes, "Who is that?" I said, "I think that's Gabby Hoffman."
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, "Oh, it is Gabby Hoffman."
Mm-hmm. I remember her mostly from Now and Then.
That's what a lot of people remember her from.
Yeah.
I remember her mostly from the Tommy Lee Jones and Heish-led Volcano.
Oh, yeah. I didn't see that. I watched Dante's Peak instead because those came out the same year.
You didn't see Volcano?
No, I went Dante's Peak route because I had a thing for Pierce Brosnan.
Well, who doesn't?
Well, and also Linda Hamilton.
Oh, yes, of course, yeah.
Gotta love that. No,
but Volcano doesn't necessarily hold up, but it's a lot of fun.
Come on, disaster movies in the 90s I'm sure don't hold up.
Yeah.
Except for maybe Day After Tomorrow, but I think that was
that was
2000s.
Yeah,
exactly. You know, there are some things about this movie that I picked up this time watching it versus other times because A, I'm a little bit older, and B, obviously watching it for this podcast, I'm definitely engrossed in making sure I catch everything. So Did you notice the movie playing at the very, very beginning, the night after he hears the voice and he starts to talk to his wife about it? Did you notice the movie that their daughter was watching?
I did not notice it.
Because we recently talked about it, not on the show, but just separately, you and I were talking about it.
Really? Give me a hint.
Jimmy Stewart's in it.
Oh, yes, they were watching Harvey.
Yes.
That's right. Yes.
And
yeah.
I love that they were watching Harvey. And then when he goes into the farm supply store and he asks one of the guys, like, "Oh, have you heard voices?" And then, of course, the other customer's like, "Who's hearing voices?" And he's like, Ray's hearing voices. And Crazy by Patsy Cline is playing over the loudspeakers.
Oh, I didn't pick that up.
Yeah, just little subtle nods. Is he crazy? Did he really just lost his mind?
See, I like that because there's the one sequence where he is walking through town and then all of a sudden he looks up at the movie theater and it says The Godfather.
Yes.
The best of in the last 10 years or something like that.
Best film of the year.
Best of the year or something like that. Yeah, and he was like, best of the year. Oh, he did a little bit of time traveling.
Yeah. And then he rubs off the registration on that car. It shows 1972. He's like,
that's right. Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah, no, that's the cool thing about Field of Dreams that I actually do really like is, like you said, the subtlety of just about everything.
Yes.
There is so much that if you're not paying attention, which is interesting because this isn't a movie that you necessarily need to hang on every word for.
No, it's definitely not like, some of the other movies we picked are in fact like that. That's true.
Right.
This is an easy watching movie.
Very, very easy. Yeah, and just when he goes to see James Earl Jones, my gosh, how much fun was that to shoot? I can only imagine how much fun James Earl Jones had doing that whole sequence.
Yes, I agree. And this is actually the first time I was ever introduced to Ray Liotta. It's the first movie I ever saw him in. Yeah, this movie came out in 89. I think I watched it when I was a couple years after that, so maybe I was like 7 or 8. And he is so young, and he had beautiful eyes. I don't know if you noticed.
Oh, Ray Liotta definitely had some peepers.
Yes, beautiful eyes, and he did a great job, and he actually didn't know how to play baseball before this movie.
Oh, really?
Shoeless Joe was actually left-handed, and Ray Liotta had to bat right-handed because he worked for weeks and weeks on baseball. He ended up not being able to bat left-handed, but he did develop a very beautiful swing. He was definitely praised for picking it up pretty quickly. And the line drive that he hits at Kevin Costner in the first scene of the movie was an accident.
Oh, really?
That was absolutely him hitting the ball, and he did not mean to do that, and Kevin Costner stayed in character so we could get that scene.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes.
I love when that happens.
Yes. And so that fall to the ground was absolutely real when he dodged that line drive.
That's awesome.
Yes.
It looks natural.
Yes, it did.
Well, now we know why.
Now we know why, yeah. And one of the most famous lines of this movie is, "If you build, he will come." As that was voted as the 39 best movie quote ever by the American Film Institute, AFI.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Even people who haven't seen the movie know that line, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very universally used line these days.
Yes, absolutely. And I loved how the score was very subtle, yet very, very poignant and perfect for this film. It's not a hugely, you don't automatically recognize it. It's It's not one of those that is that memorable, but once you watch the film, you're like, oh yeah, I remember this. And it's a very good, just nice support to this movie. It's not dominating it in any way.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I feel James Horner was really good at doing that with a lot of earlier movies that he had scored.
Yes, he is one of my favorite composers. And he has made some bangers, though.
Oh, most definitely.
So James Horner, unfortunately, passed away in 2015, and he was only 61. He has made some incredibly memorable scores, and here are some of them. Legend of Zorro, Troy, Courage Under Fire, Jumanji, Apollo 13, Clear and Present Danger, Willow, which is one of my faves, Titanic, which is one of your faves,
my faves,
Braveheart,
one of the greatest films.
And scores,
most definitely.
And Legends of the Fall.
I've never seen Legends of the Fall.
Oh, shit. Okay, adding that to the list. Well, I'll have to see if it still holds up first.
Brad Pitt, right?
Yeah, oh yeah. He made incredible music for the movies when he was alive. And I mean, he's up there with John Williams in terms of being memorable, the themes that he has created. So really excited to learn that he actually scored this movie because of the fact that, as you said, his early work was a little bit more subtle.
Yeah.
Burt Lancaster is also in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
He is an OG movie star from back in the day. I was introduced to him. My dad showed me The Crimson Pirate when I was growing up.
Never even heard of that one.
Oh, it's awesome. He's great. He grew up in the circus, and so he did all his own stunts. He's a total badass. Total badass. Wow. Oh, yeah. And so he's like swinging them from mast to mast and as a pirate and on the boat and everything. He's so cool. He does a lot of really cool stunts in that movie. Really fun movie. And this is his last film credit, which I thought was very poignant. Yes.
I did not know that. I always liked his sign off every time he's on screen. I better get going. Alicia's going to think I've got a girlfriend. And then he and the crazy thing about Field of Dreams is like you said, it's a subtle story. It's a simple story. Mm-hmm. And there's so much that goes on with Ray and his life at home. And then as he, goes on this adventure to find James Earl Jones's character because of the dream he had. And then the dream his wife also had. Yeah. So I love that scene when she's sitting on the stairs and he's telling her about the dream he had. And she goes, "Were you sitting there having a hot dog?" And he's like, "Yeah." And she goes, "I had the same dream. I'll help you pack." And they run upstairs. Yes. And then they start packing everything up.
So good.
And then after the whole James Earl Jones thing, he's like, I have to take you to a ball game. I don't know why, but I have to take you to a ball game. Something is going to happen there that we both have to be there for. And I was curious if you heard how much 2 hot dogs and 2 beers were at the ballpark.
Oh, I didn't.
You didn't?
No, I didn't hear it.
2 hot dogs, 2 beers. Now, let's think about this. 1989, the beers were definitely not the 20-ounce beers that we're getting at the ballpark now that are $13 to $14. Mm-hmm. For 2 hot dogs and 2 beers in 1989 at the ballpark, $7.
Awesome.
It made me just like, oh, man.
Because
I was
Costco
at an Angels
prices.
game. Exactly. I was at an Angels game several months ago with our mutual friend Joel Kramer, and we went to the Angels Stadium, and I got a beer and a thing of nachos, and the thing was like $27 fucking.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, I got a really cool plastic hat that all my nachos went in, and I got to wear and have cheese in my hair after that. But I mean, my gosh, I loved that, and I loved that they were at the ballpark together. And then you find out that they both saw the same thing, but James Earl Jones's character doesn't come clean about it until a little bit later on. So yeah, it's really a fun movie, and I love the dialogue between Ray Liotta and Kevin Costner's character. Whereas Ray Liotta plays Shoeless Joe, Kevin Costner plays Ray,
which is confusing.
Very confusing, yeah. But I just like that it really feels magical, and I think the way that it was lit by the director of photography really had that sort of dreamlike look to it, where is this happening or not? But you know it's happening because his wife and his daughter can see them too.
Yeah.
And that was another thing that I really, really liked about the fact that the bank is trying to foreclose on this land, and they're like, you're crazy. They're there during practice while all these baseball players are there, but the bank people don't see them. Mm-hmm. Only Ray and his wife and his daughter do. And they're, of course, thinking he's off his rocker and he's out of his mind. And this, like you said, Patsy Cline's song Crazy's playing in the store. And we've used this word already, subtlety. And that's a good thing in a movie like this, where the subtlety is something that you pick up on, that you can take home with you and really relate to. Because it feels dreamlike, and it feels like, how is this possible? But it's happening right in front of me.
And through the first part of the movie, you question whether or not this is really happening.
Exactly.
I mean, they don't hit you over the head with,
with,
oh yeah, he's right and everybody else is wrong, you kind of question it for a minute.
yeah, I agree.
One of the other lines that I absolutely love in this movie is when Shoeless Joe yells to Ray and says,
Hey, is this heaven? No, it's Iowa.
I think that's the second most famous line out of this movie, and I absolutely love it. And as you were talking about the lighting, that magic hour, which is kind of that sunset hour where it's the only time he really hears a lot of the voices, that scene had to be filmed over several days because that's such a tight window for that lighting.
Oh,
sure. Because very, very quickly it gets too dark, right?
Yeah.
And so they had to film it over several days in order to make that happen.
Oh, wow. I love to know that stuff.
Yeah, and there are some really great pieces of trivia about this film. The first one being this is a real baseball diamond. It is in Iowa, and the family
Really?
And the family that owned the farm kept the field. And
oh, wow.
And you can go and visit it.
What?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
And in 2021, the Yankees and the White Sox played a game there, and Kevin Costner introduced it, and it was a TV special, and it was the highest rated MLB game since 2005.
Are you serious?
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea. That's awesome.
It was awesome.
That is really fucking cool.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Now I want to go visit it.
I know, right? I'm not even a baseball fan, and I want to go see it just for the movie piece of
likewise.
it. Yeah.
That is so awesome.
One of the supporting characters is this guy named Archie Graham, who the older version of him is played by Burt Lancaster, mentioned earlier. He was a real person. And the people who James Earl Jones's character is interviewing at the bar were people who knew the real Doc Graham. He became a doctor. Archie Graham became a doctor, so they called him Doc.
Oh, wow.
They found out about the movie and the inclusion of his character, so they drove from Minnesota to Iowa. The stories the men shared were actual stories about Doc Graham, which I thought was so beautiful.
Oh, that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get that far in the trivia at all, but wow, that's really awesome.
Yeah, I loved his character. It was very beautiful, and I liked James Earl Jones's point about how he was this small town doctor and absolutely changed the lives of all these people, and it was really great. I liked how that was written.
Yeah, that's really, to know now that was actually real is awesome. That's so cool.
You talked about the game they went to at Fenway Park, which is in Boston.
Yes.
Then unknown, Ben Affleck and Matt Damon were among the thousands of extras in that baseball game scene. Yep, and are uncredited.
Wow. No kidding.
Yeah.
In 1989.
Uh-huh.
Wow, that's really cool too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they're from Boston.
Oh yeah,
Fenway,
diehard Red Sox fans. There is a scene in this movie with a giant line of traffic.
Yes.
That's real. That really happens.
What?
Phil Alden Robinson, who is the director of this movie, broached this idea with the Chamber of Commerce.
No way.
And he wanted this idea of headlights being seen for miles along the horizon at night. They said that it could be done, and they got over 1,600 locals to get in their cars and make this scene happen.
Oh my gosh. I thought it
was old school, some sort of CGI. I didn't know how they...
Same.
When I watched that scene, I was like, how did they do that scene?
Yeah.
The town was blacked out. They had everybody turn off all the lights, and all the locals drove their vehicles. And in order to give the illusion of a movement, that they were all, moving towards what they were moving towards, they had everybody blink their high beams off and on to give the illusion that they were kind of moving along in the distance.
Wow.
Yeah, but that was
so
all real.
awesome.
That was, and I loved it. I was like, how cool is it that the locals jumped in and were like, yeah, hell yeah, we'll do this.
Yeah, I was watching it and I'm like you said, there's no way.
Yeah.
But, oh man.
So cool.
Wow, that is really badass. What else has Phil Alden Robinson done? Because I know the name. No,
Not much. The only memorable movie of his that I'm actually familiar with is The Sum of All Fears.
Oh, really? With Ben Affleck?
Yeah,
Oh,
which
okay. I
is
saw that
funny because when he started filming that, Ben Affleck was like, "Oh, it's really nice to work with you again," and Phil was like, "What are you talking about?" And so he told him the story about being an extra in Field of Dreams.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, that's pretty sweet. That's cool as hell.
Yeah.
I like that. That is really neat.
Yeah. One of the last things I want to tell you about this movie is that the voice is credited simply as quote-unquote himself.
Yeah, I saw that.
The identity of the actor is still unknown. The real Kinsella, so this movie's based on a book, written by W.P. Kinsella. He believes that Ed Harris was the voice, which is funny given he's married to Amy Madigan, who's Kevin Costner's wife in this movie that we talked about.
Interesting.
And others have speculated that it might have been Ray Liotta himself, given that, that is kind of the tie-in to that character in the movie.
Right.
Or even Kevin Costner. But nobody has come forward and said who did that voice, which I thought
fascinating.
was really
I'm going to
interesting.
say that it's not Ed Harris.
The whole time I thought it was Ray Liotta because that's who it's supposed to be.
Right, yeah, I would go with Ray Liotta. There's too much of a high-pitchedness in it for it to be Ed Harris.
Yes, I actually think that it might be Kevin Costner.
You think?
Because after everything is said and done, what is the whole point of this movie?
No, that's true.
Right?
That makes sense. Yeah.
And so Kevin Costner being that voice does kind of make a lot of sense.
Yeah, it does. Like he's talking to himself in a way.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So
I like that.
that's my
I could
personal.
go with that.
That's my personal fan theory.
Yeah, I guess we got to have some fan theories here and there.
Yeah.
And I think Kevin Costner works. Definitely not Ed Harris, though.
Agreed. And Kevin Costner, some of my favorites of his are Robin Hood, The Bodyguard, The Untouchables.
Never saw it.
What?
Yeah, I've never seen The Untouchables.
Oh, shit, I'm adding that to the list.
When I saw Dances with Wolves, I was so bored to tears that I wrote Kevin Costner off forever. I'm not lying. I didn't care about Kevin Costner at all.
He's made some stinkers, I will admit.
Oh, yeah. And the last time I saw him in a movie in theaters was a movie called The Upside of Anger with Jane Fonda.
Yep.
And that movie is a pile of shit. I went and saw that as an extra credit for a college class that I was in. The teacher's like, write up what you thought about the movie. I'll give you extra credit. I destroyed it. And that fucking asshole didn't give me any extra credit.
What? How come?
Because I destroyed the movie. Because he fucking loved it. Yeah, I confronted him about it. I said, so I went and saw this movie. I paid my money. I wrote up about it, how I didn't like it. It doesn't matter if I liked it or not. You should still give me the extra credit.
You wrote it.
The way you wrote your paper was very dismissive. I said, yeah, did you watch that fucking movie? That movie is shit.
It's a bad movie, yes. But he's done some terrible movies. He has absolutely done some terrible movies.
Oh, yeah.
He has done a Western I want to introduce you to, though, which is called Silverado, which is very good. And it's a easy introduction kind of Western for people who don't usually watch Westerns. It's easily consumable, that's for sure.
Silverado. All right, I'll write that one down.
Kevin Kline's in it, too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Kevin Costner, Kevin Kline.
And Danny Glover.
Oh, all right.
Yes. So those are some of the movies that he did that I think are good, that I enjoyed.
Nice. Oh, that's all right. I mean, at least there's a few.
Yes.
I can honestly tell you that this might be the one that I've so far enjoyed Kevin Costner, and I can't
fair.
Pinpoint another movie where I'm like, oh yeah, Kevin Costner was great in that.
I thought it was kind of funny that you said that about Ben Affleck, because I was like, no, he's been in some terrible movies. And similar to Kevin Costner. Like, Ben Affleck's been in some he's directed fantastic movies. He's got a pretty good, I'm going to use it, batting percentage when it comes to directing movies. But as an actor, he's picked some terrible ones. I think him and Kevin Costner are kind of on par with that.
I'll agree with you, for sure.
As we said, this movie came out in 1989. It was number 14 for the year, which I think is pretty cool.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, top 20. Not bad.
It made $63 million in order to make top 20.
Wow. What was, did you recall the budget?
Yes, I actually did read what the budget was. It was $15 million. So it did well.
15. Yeah, that's a good takeaway.
Yeah.
And again, though, it's PG rated. It's very family friendly.
Oh, yes.
There's no sex. There's no violence. I don't think there's a swear word in the movie. I mean, there might be damn,
I think there
or
might be
maybe,
one, but that's it.
Yeah, maybe. It's one of those movies that the PG rating now, if it had come out, I feel like would get a G rating if they had cut out the one swear word that was in it.
Yeah, absolutely. The only thing I will say is that I think a lot of younger kids would be very, very bored with this movie.
Oh, yes, I'll give you that much. I remember my father wanted me to watch it when I was maybe 13, and I was like, I don't care about a baseball movie, Dad. And then Amy moved in, and she was like, it's one of my favorite movies. All right, I'll check it out. And I liked it. So,
yes, yeah. I definitely appreciate it more as an adult than I did when I was a kid.
100%. Yes, absolutely. It resonates, and as we get older as well, it would be one of those movies that would likely resonate with most men and their fathers for sure.
Yes. So this is a great movie. Highly recommend it, and you can watch it for free on Amazon Prime.
Oh, wonderful. We watched my wife's DVD copy.
Oh, nice.
My wife's DVD copy,
not
my DVD copy.
Wow, she has DVDs too, huh?
She's got about 8 of them. All 600 of the others are mine.
Yes, that certainly
And that's
makes
DVD.
sense.
I also have Blu-ray and 4K and VHS. So that gives you a little insight as to who I am.
Do you have to rent a storage unit?
I probably should. But yeah, my movies are not going anywhere. They're staying with me.
I have a hard drive tower of all my movies.
Oh,
It takes up way
there you
less
go.
space.
Yes, yeah. The wife has been trying to get me to go digital or to get one of those old CD cases that hold 100 CDs.
Oh my
and
God,
put my DVDs in
flashbacks
there.
of
Yeah,
me
and I
driving just came flooding back.
I keep telling her no because I like to have the physicality of the box and the jacket and all that stuff. So you can still put it in there. Like, yeah, but I have to bend it up, and it's a thing.
And as I've said before, I respect that.
Indeed, mutual respect is good.
Yes, and very important doing this.
Yes, it is.
That is Field of Dreams. If you want to honor Ray Liotta, if you want to watch a baseball movie, or if you just want some escapism, go ahead and watch this movie. It's really great. Really
It
great.
really, good word, escapism, for sure. And like I was mentioning earlier with the way that it's lit and shot, it's very dreamlike. So when it ended and the credits rolled, I did kind of come back into reality. It was like, oh, wow, the movie's over? Wow, what a great way to end that movie. And the crazy thing about the ending is you want more.
Oh, yes. I need to
You
know what
want
happens next.
So much more. I was
Yes.
like, come on, no, give me just 5 more minutes.
It was a very natural place to end the movie, but you
Yes.
still want more.
Exactly. Yeah, you just want it. You
Which
want to
is
know how it will
great.
affect his life in the
Yes.
long run.
Yes. And will other people see these players? Right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
What happened to Terrence Mann?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great pick. I really enjoyed it watching it for the second time.
I'm so glad.
And Amy and I watched it together, and like I've said before, it's one of her favorite movies, and it's not one of my favorite movies, but it's up there on a movie that I would likely watch once a year to just kind of escape.
Yeah. It's a good summer movie, I think.
Yeah,
well.
definitely.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
Well, I'm really glad to hear that you enjoyed it. And
Yes.
now we are going to completely switch gears.
Oh, are we ever?
And this is actually, I think, a good example of why you and I really try to pick movies that are complementary to each other, either similar genre or similar feel, because Jesus Christ, this is night and day.
Oh, 100%. This is as dark as the night gets.
To a point that it's somewhat jarring.
Oh, I'll give you. Oh, 100. Yeah. It's very jarring.
Yes.
Yes. And we are talking about my Ray Liotta pick is the 2002 cop drama Narc. Is written and directed by Joe Carnahan. Some of us may know Joe Carnahan as the writer and director of Smokin' Aces, also starring Ray Liotta, Ryan Reynolds, Alicia Keys. We can get into that later. Joe Carnahan has also written and directed a movie called The Grey with Liam Neeson, which I love to death. I think The Grey is a fantastic movie. Narc was his first written and directed by film. And it had a budget of $6.5 million, ended up grossing $10.5 million, which is awesome for a debut writer-director.
Yeah, and not bad for an independent movie either.
Exactly. Yeah, very independent. We'll get into how independent shortly. But Narc is about a cop who is essentially chastised after a horrific sequence of events. And he is then brought back in after about 18 months of being on leave. And he's given this case that has started to run cold. And this is about a murdered undercover narcotics officer. And Ray Liotta's character, Henry Oak, was the best friend of this now murdered undercover narcotics officer. The other character is played by Jason Patric, who I really liked in this film. I'll be honest with you, I loved everybody in this film. And I mean everybody, down to Busta Rhymes. I thought Busta Rhymes was fantastic. And he's only in the movie maybe about 15 minutes, but he's great.
He
in
is.
It. He really is good.
And when he came on the scene, I was because you just hear his voice first, you're like, is that Busta Rhymes?
Exactly, yes. Yeah. So the cast is great. Jason Patric, Ray Liotta, Shai McBride shows up, which is awesome. He plays the captain of the police station that Ray Liotta's character is essentially kind of chastised from. He's banned from working on this case. The Michael Calvez case is what they call it. So Jason Patric is brought in after Internal Affairs interviews him about how what he has done in the beginning of the movie could have been prevented, this, that, and the other. And Jason Patric is essentially thrust to become partners with Henry Oak. Henry Oak, played by Ray Liotta, is an absolute 100% loose cannon. And I say that wholeheartedly. And I say that also in a way that I really respect, because he's such a loose cannon with everything having to do with right and wrong. Not any other reason. He is all about right and wrong. He believes in the badge. He believes in the good of people. He also wants the bad guy to go down. And the way we're introduced to Henry Oak, absolutely brutal. We're essentially sitting with Jason Patric's character and Shy McBride's character, the captain of the police station, and Shy McBride is telling him how great a cop Henry Oak is, but he's unstable. And then Henry Oak is introduced by taking a pool ball into a sock and beating this guy that has been arrested for beating his wife and child. And that right there, in the most fucked up way, shows you the humanity of Henry Oak's character. And I love that, because I feel like I would do the same thing.
Yes, exactly. And when he was introduced, you see him putting that ball in the sock, and you're like, oh, Jesus, what he's going to do. And then there's this towering monster dude that he walks up to and just starts wailing on. I'm like, dude, not okay, you're a cop. And he's like, if you ever beat your wife and kids again, I was like, I get it.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah. And the ferociousness in Ray Liotta as this character is just spectacular to watch, because right then, like I said, the humanity in Henry Oak's character is there, the brutality is there, and the desperation of taking that fucker down is just in his eyes. It's nowhere else. It's in his piercing eyes. And they really utilize that a lot in Narc. And that's why I really like the way Joe Carnahan put this movie together, was because he really gets in your face. And I'm all about the camera being in the actor's face. I want to feel that spit coming off of them as they're screaming at each other outside. I want to feel that breath, because it's so fucking cold out there, and you can tell that it was just miserably freezing. So one fun thing that I like to recall about Narc is Narc was the first R-rated film that I saw legally.
Really?
Yes, I saw Narc when the opening night, which was January 10th of 2003, and I saw it at the Mann Theater in Valencia, California. I went with a guy that I was friends with on the swim team in high school, and I did not have a valid ID at the time. My ID had expired, so I went up to the ticket taker and I said, I would like one for Narc at 8 p.m. It was at the Mann Theater in Valencia, California, so I handed him my expired ID. The guy said, this is expired. I said, I just turned 17 on Christmas Eve of last year. The guy looked at me and said, are you serious? I said, look at the date of that and the expiration of my ID. I am 17. This is the first R-rated film that I'm going to see after turning 17. And the guy said, all right, cool. And he gave me my ticket.
Nice.
So, yeah, so we went in to see this movie, and I walked out of there just full of adrenaline and full of just clenching fists of, my God, what a brutal story. What an incredible performance from Ray Liotta.
That performance by Ray Liotta made this movie.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I can't picture anybody else doing Henry Oak other than Ray Liotta.
The intensity that he portrayed glued me to my seat watching this movie.
Yeah.
And you're right. His eyes, holy shit.
Oh, man.
This is a very intense movie. And I would say if you enjoyed running scared, you would enjoy this movie.
Yeah, I would say so. I would say if you enjoy twisted cop movies,
brutal
definitely.
Fucking movie. I mean, from the intro scene, holy shit, I almost texted you.
Oh, you should have. I wish you would have.
Oh my God, what did I just see?
I almost warned you that the beginning was incredibly frenetic, and even more frenetic than like the Blair Witch Project.
Not even that, traumatic.
Very, very traumatic. Oh my gosh. Every time I watch it, after it cuts to black, my body just tightens up.
Yeah.
And I get my spine, I'm getting chills now. Like, it's brutal. And the way it's cut and the way it's shot is stunning, because it is so gritty, and we've said this before about certain movies, it's bruised, it's brutal, it is in your fucking face. There is no way that you are going to be able to breathe until this movie ends.
Yes, and it's Detroit in the winter. It's like Four Brothers, how just uncomfortable and cold the whole movie looks the whole time.
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%.
Ugh. It looks so unpleasant. I would not have wanted to be on this shoot, to be totally honest, because if you're behind the scenes, you are standing there for fucking hours. Freezing your ass off.
Oh my gosh. I wonder how many people may have caught pneumonia. It's crazy.
Christ, yeah. Ooh.
And the wild thing about the production was that this was one of those quote unquote as independent as it gets shoots. Paychecks were not coming after several weeks of being in production.
Oops.
Yeah, so Jason Patric and Ray Liotta believed in the movie so much they did not want to ruin Joe Carnahan's first movie. They stayed on without getting paid. The crew stayed on without getting paid because they believed in this script. And that just makes me feel elated because not only is the script great, the movie's fucking great. It's shot beautifully, it's edited beautifully, the music is fucking awesome. Every actor, even bit parts, the gangsters, the guy that they go see, there's like, let me get a little hit before I talk to you.
Oh, God,
I loved
love
his
that
character.
guy.
He was so hilarious, but so twisted. And then they go and get the other guy that, you know, they're emptying his freezer and like, oh, look at this, badges and guns, drugs and guns. That guy was great.
Bagels and guns.
Bagels and guns, thank you. Everything is just so intense. Now, there's one sequence in this movie that I have been very excited to talk to you about. And I think it's not the greatest part of the movie, but it really accentuates and really adds to the uncertainty of the movie and of the story and who these guys really might be. Who I'm talking about Jason Patric and Ray Liotta's character. But then I'm also thinking, while this is happening, who are these people? So this is a montage scene that is done in a breakup of 4 to 5 to 6 different screens going on at once. Certain portions of dialogue is heard, whereas others are not. People are being taken down in a pool hall. We don't really hear what's going on, but we hear an interview. Those scenes for this montage were shot with Ray Liotta and Jason Patric. Joe Carnahan had a few people in a van, script supervisor and audio, and they drove around Toronto. And they got out of the car, and Joe Carnahan had the camera operator stay 50 to 100 feet away, and Jason Patric went up to random people on the street and asked them if they knew who Michael Calvez was.
No way.
All of those reactions are people that have never been in a movie, never acted, and have no fucking idea who Jason Patric is or Ray Liotta is, and they're asking if they know who Michael Calvez is, and all of them don't have any fucking idea who he is.
Oh my gosh,
Because
that's so cool.
Isn't that just fucking awesome? Guerrilla style fucking filmmaking right fucking there. So awesome.
So
now I
cool.
kind of hope, you know, those people did end up seeing Narc later and be like, look at me, I'm in a movie.
Yeah.
But maybe not, because it really did not get a very wide release.
No, it
got a
didn't.
limited release in December of 2002, and then it was wide released in January of 2003. The reason it got a wide release, and I wonder if you noticed, they so-and-so and so-and-so production in the opening credits.
I
You didn't.
No.
Tom Cruise executive produced this movie.
What?
Yes, he did. Tom Cruise saw this movie, loved it to death, threw his name on his EP, loved Joe Carnahan so much that he brought Joe Carnahan in to direct Mission Impossible 3. Halfway through Mission Impossible 3, Joe Carnahan left because of creative differences with Tom Cruise.
What?
What?
That's how J.J. Abrams got into Mission Impossible 3?
That is how J.J. Abrams took over from Mission Impossible fucking 3.
Shit.
Yeah. When I read that, I fucking threw my phone down. I was like, you got to be fucking kidding me, man.
my God.
You were directing Mission Impossible 3 and you had creative differences with Tom fucking Cruise in his franchise, man. And you
dumbass.
left. You left? Unreal.
Oh, that's
Unreal.
amazing. That's amazing.
Apparently to this day, Tom Cruise still holds no ill will towards Joe Carnahan. He still respects him as a filmmaker and as a writer, and that just makes my heart happy because, you know, creative differences are creative differences.
Right.
It happens all the time.
Right.
And the fact that Tom Cruise is still like, no, Joe Carnahan knows what's up. Like that, I just love that.
That is actually not surprising. Of all the things I've ever heard about Tom Cruise, I have never heard anything bad about him, his personality.
Yeah.
I've never heard anything bad in this industry about Tom Cruise. I know he's a divisive person in real life,
Yeah.
but I have not heard one negative story about that man.
Not
ever.
at all.
And
Never.
I don't think it's good PR. I've heard he's a genuinely good, generous person.
Yeah, that's all I've heard too.
Yeah.
And I love to hear that. I think it's great.
Me too.
They had a 28-day shooting schedule on Narc.
That's
They made
fast.
That's a fast shoot, yeah. Especially for something like this, with the amount of footage that they got and the way, like I said, the editing in this movie.
Yes.
I love it so much, and it was shot on film, so that's another reson why it's got that grainy, gritty look.
And I love that montage scene, by the way. I agree with you. I thought
I'm so glad.
It was creative. It was unique.
Yeah.
It was such a great way to show a lot of work in a short amount of time. It was great.
Right.
They did
yeah.
a great job.
And I think I might have mentioned it too. It's just there's so much uncertainty, you know, going on. And with a case that goes cold, I can only imagine how much uncertainty is going on in the brains of the two detectives that are the leads on it. So it really was just a very well put together montage. Another little bit about Narc that impressed me also, there's an actor that was very, very interested in playing Henry Oak. Due to scheduling conflicts, he could not take the role. And that actor was Harrison Ford.
Really?
Could you imagine Harrison Ford
No.
playing Henry Oak?
No.
I could.
Really?
I could.
I can't
Absolutely.
imagine him that gritty. By the way,
However-
that's your new nickname. You pick
Gritty?
Yeah, because you pick gritty. Like those are all of the movies that you pick. They are gritty fucking movies.
I have picked some gritty, brutal movies so far, yes. And my wife has, my wife has mentioned that Vee might have picked a lot of better movies than I have. Only because my wife doesn't like the brutal, gritty cop dramas like I do.
Well, it's, just my grand plan of ingratiating myself with your wife. It's fine.
Hey, it works for me.
She's cool. I dig her. So
She is.
whatever I
Yeah,
gotta
she's
do to
great.
get in her good graces makes me happy. I'll do what I gotta do.
And so Harrison Ford expressed a lot of interest in playing Henry Oak. I think he definitely would have done a great job. I'm very happy it was Ray Liotta because next to Goodfellas, it's my favorite Ray Liotta performance.
Really? I could see that.
Oh, 100%. I only went to see Narc because of Ray Liotta.
Mm-hmm.
I saw the trailer and was like, that looks good, but Ray Liotta, I love him in Goodfellas. And again, everybody knows him from Goodfellas. Loved him in Karina. Loved him in, now Field of Dreams. I hadn't seen Field of Dreams at the time, but I saw the trailer for Narc, immediately was drawn into it because Ray Liotta looked like he was just going to be a badass.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what he was.
Yeah.
And Ray Liotta actually gained 25 pounds for this movie because if you look at him, his face is not as jawlined and chiseled out.
He's a big dude in this movie.
He's big, yeah. And he actually wore a bit of a fat suit too to kind of give him a little bit of a gut. And every morning before shooting, he would eat Chinese food and soy sauce to give him a bit of a bloat in his face and around his body. They gave him a little bit of aging with some prosthetic skin under his eyes. I don't know if you noticed that, but there's a lot of scenes that are close up on him and he's got like these crumble crow's feet under his eyes and around his face. And that was all done in prosthetic makeup. And I thought it looked very convincing.
Very convincing because for me, instead, I went from Field of Dreams to this movie and I was like, ooh,
oh yeah,
that's some rough aging. So I'm actually glad to hear that it wasn't all real.
And that's interesting because Field of Dreams was 89. This was 2002. So it really was not that long after Field of Dreams or Goodfellas because Goodfellas was 1990.
Yeah, I mean, that is a good point. And I did think about that, and that's why it was very stark to me because I was like, whoa, kind of what happened. But it's nice to hear they did do very good makeup and like you said, prosthetics because I believed it.
Yeah. So Jason Patric plays Nick Tellis. He was an undercover cop, and as we find out in the beginning, something very traumatic happens to him. And as he's going through this investigation on Michael Calvez with Henry Oak, we find out that his wife is starting to slip away from him because she is seeing a repeat pattern from when he was an undercover cop and he became a junkie and, to do his job better, quote unquote. So, and I've said it before, I like when the main characters are going through personal anguish other than the anguish they're going through with what they're trying to figure out. So the personal anguish for Henry Oak's character is that Michael Calvez was one of his best friends, and now he's dead, and he's trying to find who killed him. Nick Tellis, his personal anguish is what happened to him at the beginning of the movie. He's trying to get through that. He's now married. He's got a child, and his wife is essentially very unhappy with the fact that he is now back in the undercover world.
Right.
And I really think Jason Patric really nailed it. I really felt for his character. I felt for him as a man because he is also trying to find out who killed Michael Calvez and he's not getting anywhere. And that's another thing about Narc that I think is so well done is that you don't really get anywhere for a while, but there's so much that you're learning that it really is bringing a lot of things into perspective about who Michael Calvez was. And there's a lot of clashing
and
between the two.
Yeah.
Tension that just continually builds and builds and builds. And I love that. I love the humanity of it. I love the intensity, the grittiness, the brutality. And it's not like I'm going to, go out and be an undercover cop, but it's just...
No, we talked about how neither of us could be spies. Neither of us could be undercover
exactly.
cops either.
I could never, not a chance in hell. No way. No way. It's just such a fucked up lifestyle.
And that is the number one thing I'm mistaken for more than anything else in my life. On a regular basis, people ask me if I'm a cop.
Are you serious?
Yeah, all
Really?
the time. Ever since I was in my 20s, people come up, oh, are you a cop? Or I'm like at the grocery store, I'm checking out. They're like, oh, have I seen you before? Are you a cop? Nope.
Wow.
Nope.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think it probably helps me because then people probably won't mess with me. But yeah, it's
That's
the
very true.
number one thing I'm mistaken for.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
I had
So
no idea.
I definitely couldn't be ever undercover. Everybody already thinks I'm a cop.
Exactly, yeah. Hey, V, so you said you weren't a cop.
I think that the characters are very interesting. The thing that was missing for me in this movie, I did enjoy this movie. I do think that the characters weren't fully realized, though. They didn't fully flesh them out to my personal satisfaction. There's still a lot of missing pieces, and some movies are very, very good at this, where you kind of are thrust in the middle of somebody's story and you go from there. It's not it's not an origin story, or similar to we talked about a couple episodes ago, Constantine. You jump right in the middle of his story. Sure. And we do that here, and this is a very interesting movie, and at the end, I was like, okay. At the same time, I was like, man, this would have been a great movie if the characters just were a little bit more fleshed out. Like, I would have loved a little more backstory into Jason Patric's time undercover, and now the problems with his wife, like how exactly that led to his wife, she very quickly becomes very mad at him.
Oh, yeah.
And for me, I was like, I need a little bit more backstory to justify, the reasoning behind her very quickly going, I'm out, and so I felt that the characters weren't completely three-dimensional for me, which is why I wouldn't rate this as a great movie. I did enjoy it. I think it's a good movie, especially for people who enjoy this genre. Highly recommended for people who enjoy this gritty, dark, bloody, fucked up kind of movies that you've been recommending recently.
Right. See, I find that interesting that you felt that way, because I felt that they were realized just enough, because his wife was definitely mad because he was in the bathroom taking some pills to help him through the day, and she started talking about, like, I love you, but I can't watch you go through this again. I can't watch you do this to yourself again. And there's a few cutaways where we see a little bit of Nick Tellis's past, and it's like, oh shit.
Yeah, he was undercover.
Oh, very. Yeah. And then one of my favorite scenes is Nick Tellis, Henry Oak sitting in a car on a stakeout, and Nick Tellis asks Henry Oak about his past, and Henry Oak starts talking about his wife, and we find out that his wife really brought him down after really twisted days of being a cop. And one of my favorite lines is, still the best place I've ever been. And that just reminded me so much about every time I come home, I get to sit on the couch with my wife or take her out, or just be in her presence.
Yeah.
And very poignant line is, I became a much better cop the day she died. Any hesitation I had about the job was gone, and it's like, essentially, you don't have anything to live for anymore.
Yeah.
I like talking about her. When I come home, just in bad shape. Just pissed off. I'd lie down in her lap. She'd rub my head. Some nights she'd sing me to sleep. I'd just lie there, staring at her. Still the best place I've ever been. I'll tell you this much, I became a much better cop the day she died. Any half step, any hesitation I had about the job was gone. See a dead bolted door, I'd break it down and be the first one in the room.
So that was really just like, ooh, man. And you can tell that Henry Oak truly may not have anything else to live for except for finding out who killed his best friend.
Agreed.
And we've done this in the past. We've tried to guess how many times the word fuck has been used in a movie by record time. The word fuck is used 298 times in Narc. And I thought that was a great tally, because it's almost every 3 seconds. And it's like, whoa. And it is a lot. And the way that it's delivered sometimes, though, is like a knife to your gut. One of the times that Henry Oak is screaming at Nick Tellis is, we questioned her, what for? She's been questioned for the last 3 fucking months, and the fucking fucked up thing is her husband is fucking dead. And you just see in Henry Oak's face the anguish of the fact that his best friend's dead and that they still haven't found who did it yet. And that is just, it's all in Ray Liotta's eyes. The guy knew how to
Does
convey.
Does he blink in this movie, by the way?
I was just going to say, I don't even know if he actually blinks one single time. He's just constantly just on. And
Yeah.
you feel it. You feel for the guy. You know, it's like if one of my best friends was killed, I feel like I would be doing the exact same investigation. You know, you want to know who did it. Yeah, just an all-around well-put-together cast, well-put-together film. Again, budget of $6.5 million, 28-day shooting schedule, coming in with $10.5 million worldwide box office, excuse me, U.S. box office. And very unfortunately, it did not hit the top 100 of the year, but that's okay. And we'll play our little game as usual, and I'm curious, V, if you can guess the number one film, the highest grossing film of 2002. Hint is comic book movie.
Original Iron Man was 2006 or 2008, one of the two. So it's not Marvel.
You sure?
What Marvel movie would be in 2002?
I know.
Oh, is it Spider-Man 2?
It's not Spider-Man 2.
Is it Spider-Man 1?
It's Spider-Man, yes.
Yes, okay.
Tobey Maguire,
yes,
Sam Raimi's
Raimi's
Spider-Man.
Tobey Maguire's
Yep.
Spider-Man. Oh,
Yeah.
that classic Nickelback song plays in the credits.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I do remember
Hero.
that one. Yes. And they say that a hero can save her. I'm wondering if you can guess the number 2 highest grossing film of 2002.
Okay.
Hint is Space. And it is a franchise film.
Is it MI2?
No, it's not.
Okay. Gotta give me another hint, bro.
Mission Impossible 2 didn't take place in space.
No, sorry, Men in Black 2. Sorry.
No, not
We've
Men in
got
Black
Tom
2.
Cruise on the brain.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. No, it was not. It was not Men in Black 2 or Mission Impossible 2.
Shit. Okay. Franchise set in space. Not a Star Wars movie. Wrong timeline.
You sure?
Oh, shit. So it would be 97 was the re-release of the original Star Wars movies, which means 2002 had to be Attack of the Clones?
Nice work.
Oh, yes.
Attack of the Clones, number 2. Number 3 was Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Number 4 was Signs. Number 5, My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
That's interesting that Harry Potter didn't beat out either of those movies, actually.
I disagree. I think that it's right where it should be.
No, I
Chamber
agree.
of Secrets was all right.
I agree. I absolutely agree. I just find it interesting because those movies were huge box office draws, is what I mean.
Oh, sure, sure.
Yeah.
2002 actually did have a lot of great movies too, and I feel like Narc definitely flew under the radar because of a lot of the movies that came out in 2002. There was a lot of family-friendly movies.
I mean, it's a very popcorn movie.
Very.
Not dark at all.
No. Number 8 was Men in Black 2. Number 9 was
so-
Ice Age. Men in Black 2 was
That was
in
the
there.
right year. Okay, cool.
Yeah, you had the right year, definitely.
Okay.
Number 24 was Black Hawk Down, which is my favorite war film. Number 83 was Vanilla Sky. And then, this was also fascinating, how number 6 was Lord of the Rings 2 Towers. Mm-hmm. Number 18 was Fellowship of the Ring, because they were released, almost, synchronized.
Yeah, that's right.
2001, 2002, 2003
Yep.
gave us all 3 Lord of the Rings movies.
Yeah, and they did the smart thing by not breaking up Return of the King.
Exactly, yes. And one last thing that I thought was very fascinating while watching the making of Narc was William Friedkin, the director of The Exorcist, was a major fan of the film as well.
Huh.
And he was so disappointed that there was not a single nomination for the movie or for the acting.
It's they did a very good job, especially with the budget they were given.
Oh, yeah.
It's very authentic. You absolutely believe you're part of this movie. I do think they did a very good job. I'm not a huge fan of the genre in general, but it is a good movie. They did a good job.
Awesome.
And the production company, the first production company I ever worked for, was the initial producer of this movie. So when you were talking about not being paid, I thought that was pretty hilarious.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Jason Patrick actually is on record saying that it was several months after wrapping that they had to go to court with lawyers to get the money from the producers.
Whoops. Hope
So
those weren't my
that shows
producers.
you. Yeah.
Shit.
Luckily, they weren't yours, but that goes to show you that producers that have their names on movies, a lot of them are just snaky bastards. Mm-hmm. And you got to really watch out.
Yes.
So yeah, that's Narc. I would not watch this with my grandmother. I imagine you would maybe watch Field of Dreams with your grandmother.
Oh, yeah, I'd watch it with just about everybody. I think anybody over 17 would hold their interest in this movie. I think it's totally fine for kids, but I don't think they'd be really interested in it is the problem.
No, I think it might get lost on kids.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't show anybody under the age. I I don't know. My dad showed me Goodfellas when I was 12, so I would probably show, if I had a son, I might give him, sit him down and watch Goodfellas and Narc as like a Ray Liotta double feature.
That is a good double feature for Ray Liotta, for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Oh, a triple feature with Field of Dreams.
Well, I was thinking a double feature of Field of Dreams and Karina Karina.
That is, yeah, the light-hearted Ray Liotta films with the hard-charged gut punch Ray Liotta films.
Yes.
I like that. That's good.
Yeah, I think that's a better combo.
Agreed.
And I know you watched this, of course, on your DVD, but...
Oh, I did. Yes, I did. I watched Narc on my DVD copy, which I got the week that it came out because I had to have it, and I had to watch it as much as I could. So yeah, you can watch it on DVD, Blu-ray. You can also watch it on Amazon Prime. It's streaming on Showtime, I believe, is where you watched it, V?
It is. It is for free on demand on Showtime.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Definitely give it a shot. It's not very long. It's about an hour 40, and when you're done, you might need a shower, and you might be able to breathe again.
Yeah. Absolutely. Totally agree. And I'm glad we did this. I know it was a bit impromptu.
Yeah, definitely rest in peace, Ray Liotta. Because all I've ever heard, and I believe V, you're the same, he was just a genuine human being and really loved what he did. And it really translates that Ray Liotta respected the craft of acting, and he just loved what he did. And that's one of the most important things.
Absolutely. So we hope we did him justice and also introduced you to some new films of his today.
I hope we did. So for next week, we will be going into the past, and we will be jumping on two of our favorite Westerns, and I very much look forward to it. I chose the Clint Eastwood directed, produced, starred Unforgiven.
And I chose my all-time favorite Western. I am so excited to get into this genre. It is the first time we are doing Westerns on this show.
Yeah.
But I love this genre. My dad introduced me to this genre from a very young age. And I love the fact that it's kind of this opposite for us with horror. You're not a huge Western fan, or at least haven't watched tons of those movies. And I'm very excited to introduce you to some of those. My all-time favorite Western is absolutely the first one out of the gates. I picked Tombstone.
Hell yeah.
So
and
good.
Like you said, I am not a big Western fan, but I respect these two films. Unforgiven is my favorite, and I look forward to watching Tombstone again because I've only seen it twice.
Nice. So if you want to watch these movies ahead of time, it is Tombstone and Unforgiven before next week, and then you can follow along. But if not, as always, we will continue to say this. There are no spoilers in this show, so no worries if you don't get a chance to watch these two great Westerns before then.
Absolutely. And that about wraps it up for us on this episode, our little homage to Ray Liotta. We hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys will check out both films if you have not already, and maybe you'll find a new favorite Ray Liotta performance. And our big sign-off that we like to do, film is a form of art, and in art every opinion is valid, except if you think.
The Wolf of Wall Street was Martin Scorsese's best film.
Interesting. Definitely not his best, but a great movie.
Yes, but given that he directed Goodfellas and Casino and a whole host of other movies, I actually don't know if Wolf of Wall Street cracks his top 10.
Interesting.
Well, given this is Ray Liotta's episode, I had to throw that in the mix.
For sure.
Goodfellas is an exceptional movie, and so many other ones that Martin Scorsese has done is great, so I figured that was timely.
Yeah, no, that works. I like that. I respect that.
Thank you. All right, well, that is it for us. Until next time, please rate, review, and subscribe. It is so important for us in this podcast. Even if you're not sure what to write in a review, it doesn't have to be Shakespeare. You can write something like, hey, John's impressions are amazing, and V is my spirit animal. 5 stars.
That is definitely a review, yes. And thank you to everybody that has reviewed us so far. Very, very heartwarming and touching to read those reviews.
Yes, it absolutely thrills us. We text each other immediately anytime one of us sees a new one. Please keep them coming. Again, it's so helpful. Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate you joining us. And until next time, bye-bye.
Cheers, everybody.